They found him on the floor, the porridge still steaming and where his face should be, only smooth skin. What happens when you anger a hermit who knows the old ways? Welcome back to Korean Fables of Creatures. Today we're diving into one of Korea's most chilling ghost stories, the faceless egghead ghost of Tapsak Valley. Today you discover why an entire valley became cursed, how a bully's cruelty unleashed supernatural revenge, and why some Korean villages still avoid certain paths after dark. Picture this, Tapsak Valley, centuries ago. Mist clings to pine trees, and tucked away in a tiny thatched hut lives an elderly scholar. This isn't that any bookworm. He's what Koreans call a Dosa, a hermit-sage who knows spirit working and divination. Here's what made him special. When he read aloud, his voice carried like a temple bell down the mountain. Villagers claimed that just hearing it made their worries melt away. Some walked miles just to catch a few words drifting on the wind. But not everyone appreciated this gift. Enter Kimaamuge, and yes, that's basic the Korean equivalent of John Doe, which tells you everything about his character. This guy was your classic village troublemaker, and he hated the scholar's voice. Maybe it reminded him of everything he wasn't: peaceful, wise, respected. One morning, something snapped. Kim stormed up that mountain path, pounded on the scholar's door, and shoved his way inside. He grabbed the old man's precious book and ripped it apart, screaming that if he ever heard that voice again, the scholar would regret it. Dosa stood in his doorway, calm as still water, and delivered what would become the most prophetic words in valley history. You will be the one to regret this. A grave fate awaits. And just like that, silence. The scholar vanished. At first, villagers worried. Then they convinced themselves he'd ascended to heaven. You know how people rationalize things they don't understand. They actually enjoyed the quiet for a while. But the valley itself began to change. Clear skies would suddenly dim without warning. Paths felt heavy, like walking through invisible cobwebs. Even the bravest locals stopped entering Tapsak Valley at dusk. Everyone except Kimaamuge. Pride and stubbornness kept him wandering those haunted paths, unafraid. Exactly 1 year later, and I love how precise folklore can be, Kim stumbled back into the village, pale and shaking like a leaf. There's a ghost up there, he screamed. No eyes, no nose, no mouth. The villagers knew his reputation. Classic boy who cried wolf situation. Nobody believed him. He ran door to door, warning anyone who'd listen. Then suddenly, silence again. Days passed. A kind neighbor decided to check on him, bringing hot porridge because that's what good neighbors do in Korean stories. She knocked. No answer. She opened the door. The bowl shattered on the floor. Kim lay dead, his face smooth as an eggshell. No features, nothing, just blank skin where a face should be. That's when everyone realized the curse was real. Years passed, but the curse wasn't finished. A wealthy family needed their daughter to cross the valley at night to reach her wedding destination. The bride rode ahead while her groom handled last-minute preparations. When he caught up, she was gone. He found her crouched in the darkness, white as fresh snow. She whispered about seeing a faceless old man who chased her. As she spoke, her eyes fixed on something behind her husband's shoulder. Husband, behind you. There it was, the faceless ghost advancing in complete silence. They fled through the night, legs shaking, lungs burning. At dawn, they reached safety, or so they thought. The groom's father dismissed their story as wedding jitters and exhaustion. Nonsense, he snapped. But when the groom insisted it was real, both newlyweds collapsed. Days later, they were found dead, faces wiped completely clean. The father, who'd been the first to see their blank faces, lost his mind. He wandered the streets muttering, egg ghost, over and over. The last recorded encounter happened to a young merchant returning late from the market. He took the ridge road, supposedly safer route through Tapsak Valley. But as darkness fell unnaturally fast, those old warnings echoed in his mind. The path felt like wading through sand. Leaves whispered like hidden watchers. Then he spotted what looked like salvation. An elderly couple walking hand in hand. "Don't go that way," he called out. "That's where the ghost appears." They turned toward him, and relief flooded through him until they glided past without a single footstep, silent as fog. When he called out again, they turned their heads. Their faces were polished eggshells, completely blank. He ran home so blindly he lost everything: his pack, his way, and ultimately his life. Within days, he couldn't open his mouth, couldn't breathe, and when he looked in the mirror, he could see his face was gone. Another faceless corpse. Now, here's what makes this story fascinating from a folklore perspective. Dosa represents a real figure in Korean spiritual tradition. Hermit-sages connected to Taoist practices like divination and spirit working. They're not your typical Buddhist monks. They're more like mountain wizards who've transcended ordinary human concerns. The faceless element isn't it scary, it's deeply symbolic. In Korean culture, face represents identity, honor, and humanity itself. To lose your face isn't its death, it's complete erasure from existence. And that detail about the voice making worries fall away, that reflects real Korean beliefs about the power of proper speech and reading, especially sacred texts. The scholar wasn't it smart, he was channeling something divine. Kim'amuga's name being a placeholder like John Doe suggests this story is meant as a universal warning. Anyone can become the villain through cruelty and disrespect. Even today, locals in certain Korean regions avoid specific mountain paths after dark. They say some places hold on to their curses, waiting for the next person who listens too hard to the whispers in the wind. Because here's the terrifying truth this story teaches us. Some faces are easiest to steal when you have none at all. What did you think of this tale? Have you heard similar faceless ghost stories from other cultures? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed diving into Korean folklore with me, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. New episodes of Korean Fables of Creatures drop every week, and trust me, we're just getting started with the spine-chilling stories Korea has to offer. Until next time, keep your faces and stay curious about the dark corners of human storytelling.